Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and you could tell just by the image in front of you what figure is next in the Beast of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian line that we will be reviewing, and that is quite clearly the Triceratops. However, this is a sub-adult, as the actual adult Triceratops will be significantly larger when that releases with Wave 3. You can also see a little bit of the figure there hiding within that window, but it's really shiny and reflecting horrible glare at the camera, so we can't see it too well. We'll wait till we get the figure out to actually look at that. But you can see some more images here on the back of some of the figures that are included with the first wave. You can see a Wave 1 checklist right here, and you can also see 1/18th scale for those figures, 1/6th scale for these down here, and I do believe these are the only two in the entire line that are 1/6th scale as far as the Ceratopsians go. But we have actually our figure right here, the Triceratops. Then over here we have a sneak peek of the card that is contained within. Absolutely fantastic artwork as always with these figures. And then you can see some information down here on the bottom, on the lower part of this little slip cover as far as the Triceratops goes, and then of course the name of the species right there. So let's go ahead, break this open, and take a look at the figure. So inside the packaging we of course have the card and the tail assembly instructions, but we are only really interested in checking out the card at this point in time, and you can see, just like the image on the back of the box had led us to believe, the card is gorgeous, beautiful artwork of the Triceratops kind of wandering along within a forest. And then we turn the card around. You can see an image here of the Sub-Adult Triceratops figure on the back of the card, as well as some information on the species. Again, Creative Beast Studios logo at the bottom, and the Beast of the Mesozoic logo up there at the top. Really awesome that they include those cards. I love the addition of something like that to go with the figure. It's just super cool. And then we have our Sub-Adult Triceratops right there. And it looks incredibly nice. If I can get the camera a little bit more focused on it, there we go. Now we can see quite beautifully. Really cool looking paint scheme on the figure. I'm actually quite a huge fan of the way the paint appears up there on the head sculpt of the Triceratops. But as a whole, I think the sculpt looks fantastic. The paint looks fantastic here at first glance. So let's go ahead and get a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of the Triceratops, as usual, you can see a ton of really nice detailing. However, this one a little bit differently than the others doesn't have as much scale detail up here in the face. You can see that the face actually, although it has absolutely gorgeous texturing to it, doesn't really have like a scaling to it, which is really interesting, and I actually quite like that a lot. I think it overall looks really beautiful, the way they've kind of textured all of the areas of the head and the frill and everything up until these two areas right here, where we have an absolutely beautiful scaling, and the way they painted that scale detail is fantastic. Really nice dry brushing used there, as well as a nice dark wash you could see in pretty much both areas, but you can really see it right there. And I think it looks fantastic, very realistically done, and you can even see some darker areas down here running along the lower part of the lower jaw, and it really looks beautiful. The nostril is sculpted out quite nicely right there. You can see the beak is painted with a nice blackish coloration, similar to what we see here on the horns of the Triceratops. Of course, the mouth is articulated, and it works great. Looking inside the mouth, you can see some fantastic detailing in there, tongue, teeth, all kinds of things going on. Really beautifully done. The tongue actually is pretty far back there, but it looks like it could potentially articulate itself. Maybe I'll try to put something in there and push that down at some point and see if it articulates or not, but it looks really good. Beautiful coloration on the inside of the mouth, and you can really see the very nice gloss coat right there. You can see it shining as I'm turning it, giving it that very realistic saliva-like look. Looking here at the eye, look at that beautiful eye. It has like a reddish coloration, then a yellow and a black pupil. It is gorgeous, and that gloss coat used over top is picture perfect. Really giving it a very nice realistic eye shine. You can see the same deal over here on this side of the head. I absolutely love the paint scheme they've come up with here on the head of the Triceratops, and how we have kind of black creeping in certain areas, and then like this yellowish color, and then you have some brown, and then it just all has such a really cool design to it. A very interesting color scheme for a Triceratops, but I think it is picture perfect on it, and it looks great the way they've applied it. Very nicely painted on, again with different tones, because even in like the yellow you could see different variations of yellow included. So as far as the realism of the paint schemes on these figures goes, the Beast of the Mesozoic line are probably some of the best painted dinosaur figures that I've seen so far, and I've seen quite a few dinosaur figures in my day. You can also see up here on the frill that you have some brown creeping in. There's like a very nice light dry brushing of almost like a grayish coloration up here to bring out some of the very nice detailing that they've included up here, the very nice texturing of the head. One thing that is a little shocking, however, you can actually see the seam where the horns are connected, and you can see that on both, actually the entire way through, which I think is very strange. That's very unlike the Beast of the Mesozoic figures, so I don't know why that actually is like that, but it's not really anything I think that takes away from the figure, because especially when you kind of pull it away, you could definitely see it, but it's not something that I feel like jumps out at you, and in fact, I only just noticed it right now, but it's definitely something that maybe David Silva can improve upon in the future as far as the work that his factory is producing for him. I don't really think, again, that it takes away from the figure or anything like that, because it's still so striking, you just can't help but love it. But again, we have some articulation in the neck, so we'll turn the head a little bit here. And you can see that gorgeous scale detail back here in the neck, as well as some osteoderms picking up here and there. Really nicely painted here on the back of the frill also. You can kind of see like some lighter coloration, sort of like almost like a light wash that's brought the detail here on the back of the frill out really, really nicely. You can see just generally the bulkiness of the dinosaur, some very nice detailing here in the neck region. Some more gorgeous detailing here in the lower part of the neck. You can see some kind of skin wrinkling going on there. Some very nice scale detail here in the throat region, as well as just generally showing the structuring of the throat quite nicely. You can see that as well has been painted with like a yellowish color and really nicely dry brushed with a white to bring that detail out perfectly. That's another thing I'm a big fan of on these figures, is the paint job and the way they've dry brushed and washed these figures to perfection. Coming back here into the shoulder area, you can see how nicely done, again, the scale detail is. It just generally jumps out at you. It's so incredibly well done. You can also see some more of the osteoderms and kind of like some of the scoots that sort of run down the spine, almost ridges that run down the spinal column of the dinosaur. And you also have some blue popping up here and there. Then the underside has, well, actually, it's more like the side, not the underside. You have a nice yellow, but then that transitions to the underside here where we have more of a white. So tons and tons of color variation on the figure. And again, that scale detail is fantastic. As we move down the front leg, you can see it looks quite muscular overall. You can definitely see some really nice muscle definition included. Some more kind of mixturing of the black and yellows. Beautiful foot sculpt here. You can see really nicely painted nails with a black coloration. I love the sculpts of these figures. They're just insanely well done. I shouldn't expect anything less, being something that's produced by Creative Beast Studio, but man, they just blow me away every single time. I love the detailing right here. You can see a few more kind of skin folds going on. Coming up here into the back, again, fantastic scale detail in every area. Really nice scoots, again, running down right there. You can also see some more of those kind of like osteoderms showing up here and there in the thigh area. Again, that scale detail is just fantastic. Really, really nicely done. So many different varying sizes of scales on this figure. You can see how it's nice and large right here, but then transitions to a nice smaller kind of finer scaling, and then a little bit bigger here, and then a little bit finer, then really fine down here. Just so much work has gone into these figures. You can see the kneecap here on the front of the leg. Beautiful big bulging calf muscle. Really nice foot sculpt here on the rear foot. Again, very nicely glossed and painted nails with a black coloration. And then coming up here behind the thigh, you can again see even right here some nice color variation as you have like a mixture of whites and yellows poking up. Nice black coloration up here. You have another blue stripe that runs the course of the back right there. And then it transitions to almost like an off-white or a tan, heading toward like a grayish coloration, as well as some more yellow right there, some black stripes running out the course of the tail, some gorgeous scale detail on the tail as well, some more osteoderms poking up here and there. The underside is really, really highly detailed also. You can see that different style of scaling for the underside running the course of the tail down here into the stomach region. That looks really cool as well, and is also nicely painted again with like a yellow and a white combined. Really, really beautifully painted is this figure. You can even see almost like some hints of brown within the yellow areas of the figure, but again, the figure being an articulated dinosaur is pretty much in a totally neutral position and looks almost the same on both sides, so you're not really going to see too much difference on this side that we didn't already see on the previous side. But again, just like every time, that means that the figure is gorgeous on both sides. Again, extremely, extremely impressive in the sculpt aspect, but I would dare say pretty much just as impressive in the paint aspect. And I just love the paint scheme of this Triceratops. I really, really do. Cannot wait to get the larger adult version, but for now, this Triceratops is absolutely fantastic. As far as articulation on our Triceratops, it seems to be all the same articulation. You've got the jaw articulation, which works really quite nicely. You also have neck articulation, and you have that in two different spots, pretty much at the head, where the head connects to the neck, and then at the base of the neck that connects to the body. And you can see it moves really, really nicely, and I haven't actually really moved this around at all, so it's pretty impressive that it would even move this smoothly to begin with, but I'm sure, again, with working it, moving it around a little bit, it'll get even smoother as time goes on. You also have articulation in the shoulder, in the elbow, which is super stiff right now, but I'm sure it will work perfectly fine once I actually do move it. And then you also have wrist articulation. Again, the articulation, a word of warning as far as these figures go. With the articulation, when you initially get them out, it is pretty stiff because they haven't been messed with, really. So after moving them through a few times, it does tend to loosen up really quite nicely. You can see the articulation in the hip works really well. And then we have articulation in the knee, which is also a little bit stiff, but you can see it going right there. And then two areas of articulation down here in the ankle area. And you also have articulation in the midsection, which I somehow missed and passed over. So you can see how I can move the Triceratops around a little bit, and then you also have articulation in the tail, which can go all over the place, swivel pretty much everything and anything you want it to do. So articulation to the max. As far as this, pretty much exactly the same as every other of these beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsians. They are consistently loaded with articulation. As far as a size goes, for a length on the Triceratops, the Sub Adult Triceratops, you are looking at about 10¼ inches or 26 centimeters. And then the highest point would be the head. Well, actually, the top of the frill, I should say. You're looking at about 4¾ inches or about 12 centimeters, somewhere in that area. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pachylovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to our Triceratops, the subadult from the Beasts of the Mesozoic line. And as far as large figures go, you can really see, as far as a Triceratops goes, next to Mr. Papo Rex here, who were, as we all know and love, mortal enemies, you could see that that Triceratops would already be a very, very big problem for Mr. Papo Rex. And if the subadult is this large, imagine how large the actual adult will be. But next to these figures, again, you should be able to see that even the subadult sports some really nice size. And then for yet another size comparison, here are two other beasts of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian figures, as we have the Nasutoceratops and the Protoceratops next to our subadult Triceratops. And you should have, hopefully, a good idea, again, of how these figures all size up to each other. Of course, the Protoceratops is in 1/6 scale, and the Triceratops and Nasutoceratops here are in 1/18 scale, so that's why a smaller species like Protoceratops pretty much towers over these guys, but definitely a pretty good size difference. But again, totally different scales as far as each one goes, and hopefully you'll have, again, a pretty good idea of the fact that this Triceratops, even though it is quite smaller than the 1/6 scale Protoceratops, is actually really quite nicely sized overall, giving you just a ton of bang for your buck in every aspect. So this 1/18 scale Beast of the Mesozoic Ceratopsian Series Sub Adult Triceratops is fantastic, like every single figure has been so far. Just an incredible release yet again. This is a really cool looking figure, sculpt-wise, I think, because it differs quite a bit from the others, as most of the other Ceratopsians have all had like a really scaly type of a face, whereas the subadult Triceratops here has a little bit of a different appearance to the actual texturing of the face, and I actually quite like that. I love that each figure has its own individuality, and they're all kind of not just clones of each other with like different placement of the horns or things like that. You know, Ceratopsians all look fairly similar. To the untrained eye, of course. If you're just the common everyday human being, you're probably not going to be able to tell too many Ceratopsians apart. But of course, when you're like us dinosaur-obsessed human beings, then you'll be able to tell the Ceratopsians apart quite easily just by one quick look. But as far as this Triceratops goes, again being one of the most popular, if not the most popular Ceratopsians, it's definitely a figure I think many people are excited about and kind of eagerly awaiting, and trust me, it is 100% worth the wait because this figure is gorgeous. I love the sculpt of this. Really, really nicely done. And even though the face doesn't really provide much scale detail, which again is something I do like. You can see some beautiful scales in certain areas of the face, and I think it was really nicely painted in those areas. Beautiful tones of color, really nice dry brushing, bringing out each and every scale in picture perfect fashion. The eyes are gorgeous. They have just a lot of life to them, I think, and really are pretty much perfect as far as the way that they play off of the coloration of the head here on the Triceratops. And I love the color scheme of the figure. I think that the color scheme specifically in the face area is just awesome. Really cool as far as a Triceratops goes, and not really something that, again, I would have expected, I would have come up with, but I'm really glad that consistently the Beast of the Mesozoic line kind of thinks outside the box with their paint schemes, and they've done yet another fantastic paint job on this figure with a fantastic paint scheme. Very nice detailing all throughout the entire body, gorgeous sculpt and detail, gorgeous paintwork, really awesome articulation as always, nice and smooth working. Once you actually use it a few times and get them kind of loosened up, they work great, allowing so much posability on your figure and just so many diorama possibilities, I will say. The only area that can almost be considered a downside for the figure would be the horns on the head and the fact that you can see the seam there where they connect, but honestly that's such a very small, minute issue with the figure that I don't think it takes away from the figure at all, and almost something I don't even notice. The overall figure is just so unbelievably gorgeous. You are pretty much just in awe looking at it, and things like that, that very minor little nitpick is just something that personally I am not at all worried about. Again, yet another absolutely incredible ceratopsian from this Beast of the Mesozoic line. So if you would like to pick this up, I will include a link in the description to where you can do that on the Creative Beast Studio website, so make sure you check the description, go buy yourself this fantastic Sub Adult Triceratops, and make sure you also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.